Just give me tips on that.
Okay, so let's do this. You're gonna throw twice, 2 from the side, and then 2 from directly behind you. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can.
Oh man, that was exactly 1 minute. Look at you. Is it connected? Yes. Okay. So first one glitched a little bit. So let's move to the second. Okay. So when we're moving red to red, the reason, like the red zones, that's the propulsive side of our foot. So we've got 2 sides to our foot. Okay. So if you want to think of, there's our foot, right? There's our heel.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you've got 2 sides. So the big toe and that toe rely on not the heel, but your bone above it, okay? Your talus. That is what flexes your ankle up and down, okay? So when you push through your big toe is not going to provide stability to the knee because it's telling that talus to move. It's telling your foot, your ankle to flex up and down, but you want your ankle to be stiff. When you're on the pinky side, when you're on our red area, the reason we call it the red zone is because the picture is just the first 3 are the green, and that's just the way the picture. Our pinky is linked to our heel. So our heel is a bone, and because our heel doesn't move a lot, now the foot is allowed to stay stiff, and it allows us to move around the pinky so that our hip socket rotates, okay? And so when we're pushing, we want to push red to red. So when you're thinking about it, the first thing you have to understand is the role of your back hip is 3 things. Number 1, overall, it's to create momentum. Within creating momentum, we have to satisfy several things. Number 1, at the moment that I push, everything in my body is going into that back foot. And the moment the energy goes back, everything in my body is going forward, okay? Anything that's still moving backwards as you make the decision to apply force into the ground means there's no momentum. By definition, by technical definition, we've got to understand that, okay? Now, the role of your back hip is after to create momentum, it creates momentum so that your back hip feeds your front hip. And that's why we push red to red, because I want to push energy from this hip into that one, okay? And that works through a cycle. The third thing that your back hip is supposed to do is change your pelvis from there to there. Okay. Now, the reason it does that is because your hamstring is attached here and here. So when your hamstring contracts, meaning the muscle shortens here and here when it contracts, that is the reason your pelvis goes from here to there. Because if your hamstring is squeezing, it's going to pull your hips down. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, yeah.
And so when we talk about posture, the biggest thing for posture is not trying to be tall. It's when your hamstrings pull your pelvis back here, your spine is going to go from here to where?
You're straight up, yeah.
Because your spine is attached to what? Your hips and your pelvis. And so that is what starts our posture. Your core and your trunk stabilizes your spine, meaning the job of your core and trunk is that when this happens, when your chest comes up naturally because of your hamstring, your trunk and your core keeps you in that straight posture. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay. So in order to do that, my back hip has to, number one, get to extension. Okay. So we just call it our backwards letter L. So the
Okay.
first thing we want to look at is, am I in position for my back hip to do the best job possible? So we do a good job here. We're pretty level, but you see how we're a little offset?
Yeah. Okay.
It's not a lot. Some people are really big, but what you're going to notice is when you push, do you see the rise of your left hip?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we talked about it. Anything that creates friction, and friction in your joints is just that. If one hip's going up or down and the other one's doing the opposite, that's creating friction if I'm moving forward. Now, if you're jumping side to side, yeah, then it's perfectly okay for your hips to move up and down and tilt. But if you're going forward, that's where we talk about moving inside our hip sockets. Your hip socket is a ball and socket joint. Okay. So what happens is that if this is my femur, my thigh bone can either rotate this way around that axis, or it can rotate that way, either or. Now, what is the goal of our back hip? To create momentum where? This way. So we always want our hip socket and our femur to rotate internally. So what that would look like is your heel would be slightly out. So you're pushing through your big toe, but your heel is slightly out so that you're actually using your big toe for balance and you're pushing through your red zone to get to the other one. So the only adjustment here would be let your heel slide out so that this angle is created like that. And an explanation of that, I wish coaches I would just say these. It would make things so much easier. Do you understand what I mean by that though?
Yeah, I do. Would nothing change in my front foot though? Nothing would need to be angled?
No. Because your front foot is just straight.
Yeah.
Because what is your back foot supposed to do? Your back foot is supposed to set up your front foot.
Yeah.
So your front foot is straight and it's waiting to receive that energy.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. All right.
And that's in the position that you're in. Now, if you change where your front foot is, then yes, there are chances that I would say you have to do something different. But the way your front foot is set out, moving your back foot or changing just that little angle of your heel doesn't mean your front foot changes at all. It's straight and your knee is over the outside of your shoe slightly. And that doesn't mean past your shoe. That just means your kneecap is not over your big toe. It's over the fourth toe. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's actually, while this is loading, let's go from behind again and see if we can make that adjustment.
Okay. Can you see me?
Yes.
Okay. So it's here?
Sit down. Yeah. So hold right there. Now push into your big toe inside your shoe. And push at an angle towards your pinky. Like squeeze your left butt cheek into your left pinky.
Oh, like this?
Yeah, and let your heel go down a little bit. Right there. Now push towards that right foot. Keep your hips straight though.
Okay.
So let your right elbow come forward more. So you see how that went out to the side?
Yeah.
So when you watch this video, you're going to notice that your hip was shifted out to the side.
Okay.
Keep your hips square. Remember, if you're rotating inside your socket, your pelvis stays square because it's your thigh that's rotating inside of it.
Oh, okay. It's like this.
Yeah. And still straight. There you go. Now sink, drop that back knee and push hard backwards.
All right.
How does that feel energy-wise?
I feel like everything is coming together at the beginning. Like my back knee is coming into my other one and then they're going up together. Does that make sense?
Yeah, okay. One more time.
Right. So it's here. I'm pushing my foot into my left hip. Is that what you're saying?
You're pushing your butt into your foot and then your foot pushes back into your butt.
Okay.
That's the
So it's
cycle.
here. It's here. And this goes.
You see how you went forward and everything moved forward?
Yeah.
And you barely pushed backwards, right?
Okay.
But when you tried to push hard earlier, you tried to make yourself go forward. That's why you threw yourself up.
Okay.
And that's okay. Here's what you have to understand. You have to trust that based off your angles and based off the energy you put into your back foot, that forward is going to happen. And if it doesn't, that's okay, because then it becomes an actual real mistake.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I mean by that?
Yeah. Okay. So I have to trust that by going back, it's going to go forward.
Yes.
Okay. So it's here. No.
Good. Now just drive out for me. Don't throw it, just
Okay.
drive out.
All right. Here.
Now do it in front of the rubber.
Like here.
Yeah.
All right.
Be sure your crease of your shoe is against the rubber. Create leverage. That same hole that you had with your right foot, put your left foot there. Down and then push